All right.
Good. Awesome.
Yep, good.
So to answer your question, I'm drinking our German Crossing, which is our Hefeweizen. It's my all-time favorite. It's very traditional German style Hefeweizen, which is a wheat ale. So it's got all the flavors of a wheat ale. With a little banana flavors, a little bit of clove. Really refreshing and really good every time, no matter the time of the year. So.
Awesome. And I'm drinking, I picked up beer yesterday and I am drinking My Best Girl,
Yes.
Which Jake had actually recommended to me. So I'm gonna pour this into my Maryland alumni glass. And my husband's drinking, do you have the can?
I need to get the can.
The can's awesome. So cool. It's the one that we featured on our Instagram page. I'm not gonna do a proper beer pour here.
I'm enjoying the Maryland Rye IPA. It was an awesome can. Super cool can.
Yeah, real quick, what is everyone else drinking? We heard from Teresa and we heard about Rich. Just curious what you're actually drinking from New Jersey.
Yeah, this is a Czech Pilsner dry hop with Saaz hops. It's from a New Jersey brewery. The owner is one of my homebrew club members and a friend of mine. He opened actually at the beginning of the shutdown in March. And initially it was just takeout, and now he can have outdoor and some indoor people, but it's sort of limited until we know if there's more of a shutdown. But I'm trying to support not just local breweries, but also my friends' breweries.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else got a beverage of choice?
I got the rye as well.
Oh, nice.
Very good. I did I couldn't escape Zoom meetings today, so I had the delivery, which was pretty cool.
Oh, awesome. That might have been me actually that delivered it to you. So that or a taproom manager.
That's awesome. That's really cool that the delivery service, like we haven't used that yet, only because we're walking distance to everything. So
no, that was one of the really great things that the state of Maryland did to help with us being shut down. It's of course it's been illegal to deliver alcohol in Maryland since probably the Prohibition. So that was one of the things that they did just to help the burden of us being closed to the tap room. They let us that be an option, which is really nice, especially for the people that don't feel comfortable venturing out, even to pick something up. So it gives them an option to get good beer delivered to their door. So.
Well, here's to hoping it stays after the pandemic as well.
That's why we're trying really hard to do it right, and to prove to the state that it's something that should stay.
That's cool. All right, so Jake, I know your story. So you graduated from Maryland in 2017. Why don't you tell us? So you majored in biology.
Yeah, so I majored in cell bio and molecular genetics. So my original plan was to, go into the biotech industry, something around that kind of career. And when I was a sophomore is when we opened up Smoketown. So I was telling Bridget yesterday, when we first purchased the building in Brunswick, the old Brunswick Fire Hall, it's a massive 16,000 square foot event space or space. So, we're like, what are we gonna do with this massive building, so much square footage, in a kind of sleepy, quiet downtown area? And so my dad, who's the genius behind everything, his original idea was to do architectural salvage. So old building parts for old buildings. If you had a 100-year-old house and you wanted a 100-year-old refurbished door, you'd go to somewhere like that. So that was his original plan. He used to flip houses, which I thought it was really cool, but that was when I was on my track to do biotech stuff. And then when I came home from college one day, he had told me about how I got an article from one of his buddies about a brewery in Colorado that opened up in an old fire hall. And he's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a brewery instead. What do you think about that? And I was like, hell yeah, that sounds way more fun. Let's do that. Definitely do that.
Way cooler, Dad.
Yeah. So it was really fun. Every time I was home from college, I would help him renovate that. we kind of switched gears into just, building out a brewery, something that we had never done before. So it was a bit of an adventure. But yeah, so I had been working as a bartender there since my sophomore year. And that was, when I was home for the weekends kind of thing, I would do that. And, it was always fun. It's always been a family business. My brother's a bartender. I'm a bartender. My mom helps run the Brunswick location. My dad's the owner, obviously. So yeah, back then, that was when I started, getting into working there. But as time went by, I decided that I actually really enjoyed the business part of things. And so that's when I decided, hey, like, let me take some classes and get some understanding of the business side of things. So my junior year, I decided to get a business minor on top of my biology degree. And looking back, it's really funny because that is super useful, all my minor classes. Yeah, so I graduated early in December of 2017. So actually, it was on my graduation night. My dad kind of was talking to me. And he's like, hey, I could really use your help just running the tap room. It'll be a 6-month thing. I know you have your plan, but maybe it'll be a nice break between, career and schooling. So I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds a lot of fun. So I took over as the tap room manager there. And I never left. The rest is history. I ended up, working up the ranks, and now I'm the director of operations, which is just a fancy term for I do a little bit of everything. Wherever I'm needed and stuff. But yeah, after working there for so long, I had the idea of maybe going into my career and doing the biotech angle. But the longer I was in the brewing industry, the more people I met that were all people that were in biotech and all these jobs that I was looking at who had quit to try to join and start a brewery. So I was like, you know what? My dad did all of the hard work to start this and get this up and running. And I'm meeting all these people here that are doing exactly what was, bestowed upon me. So I was like, as time went by, I was like, okay, I think this is a job for me. It's always something different. We're always doing something, whether it's renovating a space or one time I was fixing up a go-kart for the parade. It's never a dull day in this job.
That's awesome. And I maybe you know this or not, but I'm pretty sure Maryland just added the business minor. Maybe while you were like.
It probably was while I was in school, because
yeah,
I remember my first or second year was when they started talking about it. And that's when, I put it in the back of my mind kind of thing. And that's when I took a business elective just for fun. I needed an elective class and I wanted something out of the science realm to, a different kind of class. And that's really what got me hooked, was my business elective class. Like,
yeah.
hey, there's a lot of practical stuff that can be taught with that minor.
It's really cool. I'm really happy they added that minor. A little jealous because when we graduated in 2015, they didn't have it. And I think I totally would have tried to minor in that.
I think they took it away just before we got to Maryland and brought it back soon after we left. So
took it away for us.
Yeah.
Glad you at least took
Bad
advantage of
timing
it.
for you guys. But
yeah, you could probably be like a little success story for the business minor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, awesome. And now you're calling us from your second location,
yes,
which is called Smoketown Creekside. And the first location for everyone, as Jake remember, is in Brunswick. So
correct.
When did you guys open Creekside and how has that been?
Yeah, so like I said, so we opened the Brunswick location originally in 2016. And we had operating through there. And then we had realized, the more and more people we talk to in Brunswick, they're like, hey, we love your beer. But we live in Frederick and it's such a far drive. So even though it's not, but it's okay. We realized, we're like, hey, there's a lot of beer drinkers in Frederick, obviously. There's so many breweries that all of the people of Frederick support. But yeah, so that was kind of, we had in our minds, we definitely wanted to move closer to where the beer drinkers were, and not be so dependent on, tourism through Brunswick and such. So that's when we started looking at spaces. And so we actually just had our 1-year anniversary 2 weeks ago, our grand opening at Creekside. So it's been a crazy year. We we had 6 months of normalcy, and then bam, a lot of crazy. But yeah, it's definitely been interesting, and we're grateful for the city of Frederick. It's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. If anyone knows, if you guys haven't been to the Creekside location, it's right next to McCutcheon's big, I guess, headquarters, and right next to Attaboy, and then across the street from 2 other breweries. There's actually 4 breweries with probably in 100 square feet of each other.
Yeah, if you stand in our front patio, you can hit 3 breweries with a rock.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of brings me to my next question: is how do all these breweries work together and kind of jive together? You know, is it competitive? Are you guys friendly? How does that all happen?
Yeah, no, we're really fortunate because the brewing industry is probably one of the most cooperative industries out there. A lot of our business is based on people going on brewery tours and trying as much beer as they can. Obviously, Frederick being the hub, the HQ for Flying Dog, it brings a lot of beer fans from around the country, honestly, to the Frederick area. So it actually just benefits us to have so many breweries around us. We were the 3rd brewery in that foursome when we opened, and then Steinhardt just opened a few months ago across the creek, making 4 of us. And it's been nothing but good for all of us just to be. We're honestly our own brewery tour in this corner of town. So you can park your car in one of our parking lots, hit 4 breweries without ever having to get back in your car. It's awesome.
And we can attest to doing that. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
Teresa. I'm sure you can too.
Yeah.
And maybe some other people also. But it is really fun to grab a drink from each brewery because even when it's pouring down raining outside, which is when we've done it like both times, it's fine because you only have to walk like 50 yards. So kind of going with that question, I want to start talking about your beers. So, your beers versus Attaboy's beers versus Steinhardt versus Idiom, how are they all kind of different or similar?
Yeah, so this is definitely not by design. It was just by accident and brewers brew styles. We're kind of unique in the fact that we have 24 on tap, and like I was telling you, Bridget, yesterday. So being in Brunswick to start out, it kind of changed our business model compared to a lot of other Frederick breweries. Being alone in Brunswick, we didn't want to turn anyone away. We didn't want anyone to come here and say, I didn't find a beer that I like. I like your beer looks good, but you didn't have any of my styles that I like. So that's how we slowly grew from 12 taps to now we have 24 beers on tap at all times, both places. So basically we actually took that existing model when we moved to Frederick. So we're a little bit unique in that fact. But again, we only have 1 or 2 of each style. And all the other breweries around us all have kind of their specialties, their favorite brews to make. Some of the brewers like the hazier, fruitier stuff. Steinhardt just opened with the Belgian specialties. He's really amazing with Belgian styles. Attaboy makes really crisp, clean pale ales, IPAs, saisons. So it was totally by accident. We did not convene and say, hey, what style are you guys going to do? But it just turned out that we all, being together, we all really complement each other. And if you go on a brewery tour, you can have, a taste of everyone's specialties and skills.
Do you guys ever do collaborate? Like, is there like a brewers association that brewers talk?
There is. Yeah, there is actually. So there's a Brewers Association of Maryland, and then there's our own like unofficial Frederick group of people. So we're actually releasing 2 collaborations that we are doing with our Brewers Association of Maryland. So this Saturday, we'll post about it if anyone follows us on social media. But since we have 2 locations, we are actually able to do 2 different collaborations. So normally the Brewers Association of Maryland, they do a great job of throwing events and doing a lot of stuff that highlights Maryland beer. Obviously with this year, events couldn't happen as planned. And unfortunately, events are a huge part of the funding for BAM, for the Brewers Association. So we came up with this idea to have anyone that wants to participate do one giant Maryland beer collaboration in 4 different styles. So they did crisp clean, which is, lagers. They did a juicy hazy IPA. They did a fruited sour, and then they did a stout. So we are part of the fruited sour collaboration through our Creekside location, which is pretty cool because that one we did at Idiom, which is right across the street from us. And fruited sours are kind of their specialty. So we were part of that collaboration. And then BC Brewing, which is a brewery in Baltimore County, we participated in their juicy IPA category with them. So actually this Saturday we're releasing both of those collaborations. So definitely, especially if you're a Frederick native, I would recommend trying both of those. They're delicious, and they help everybody in the brewing industry.
Will both of them be available at both your locations?
So it's based on volume. So the fruited sour you can only buy through this link that we'll post, obviously. It's just directly from BAM, but the hazy IPA, we had a little bit more extra cases. So we actually have 6 cases here. So it's pretty limited quantity, but you can buy that one directly through us starting tomorrow. So if you're around, we'll put that on our online store as well as in person.
Awesome. Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about some of your beers, especially the ones that are named after Brunswick history. I think that'd be really cool to share. And then after that, I'd love to open up questions to the group that anyone has about you or your brewing process or your beers or anything.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, when we opened in Brunswick, we wanted to highlight all of the amazing things that makes Brunswick special. Especially in the area. Harper's Ferry gets a lot of props for being the cool historic river town, but in actuality, Brunswick is right up there with it. So when we were coming up with everything, even our name, actually, Smoketown was the nickname for Brunswick because back in the railroad heyday, it was actually the biggest railroad hub in the world, which nobody realized. Which has since been disabled. Obviously, they actually took a lot of it down. But at one point, it was the biggest railroad hub in the world because of its proximity right here in the Mid-Atlantic region. And there was so much train traffic that a layer of smoke would just sit on the valley that Brunswick is in. So it was nicknamed Smoketown. So that's where we get our name, actually. And Smoketown Brewing Station obviously comes from the fact that we were in a fire station. But yeah, so like all of our core beers, especially the ones that we came out with in the first 2 years, we all pay homage to the town of Brunswick and its rich history. So yeah, like for example, the beer that I'm drinking right now, it's the German Crossing Hefeweizen. So back before they had a bridge connecting Brunswick to Lovettsville in Virginia, you had to travel to Virginia by ferry, and that was the name of the ferry, was the German Crossing. Berlin, which is our brown ale, that one is actually named after the old town of Brunswick's name. So back in the 1700s, there were 2 Berlin, Marylands, and they didn't realize it until they came out with zip codes. And they realized there are two Berlin, Marylands with 2 different zip codes, obviously Old Brunswick and then the one on the Eastern Shore. So they basically said, hey, one of you guys has got to change your name. And somehow Brunswick lost out. And
yeah, lost the rock, paper, scissors on that one, I guess.
They did, yeah. So that's, paying tribute to that. The Patsy, which is one of our most popular beers right now, that is named after Patsy Cline. Our Brunswick location, it was the old Brunswick Fire Hall. The downstairs functioned fully as the volunteer fire department, but the upstairs was an event space where they would host events to self-fundraise. So they were actually totally self-sufficient, and they did a lot of that through concerts. So we have had some really crazy, insanely talented people that played upstairs in our event space, including Patsy Cline. But some other names include Duke Ellington, Jimmy Dean, Bob Seger played up there, Kicks. So
that's really cool.
Really cool history up there. and the Patsy, which is one of our most popular, is named after that. The Potomac IPA, that's our flagship. That's pretty obvious, named after the Potomac, which is where we sit right there in Brunswick.
What about My Best Girl?
So that's actually just the brewer's one of his favorite songs. So we're also a
That's
big
a newer
fan of
one,
music.
huh?
Yeah. So some of the newer ones we just play, a little bit of personal stuff in there, but all of our old stuff is all Brunswick history. So yeah, for example, Maryland, that rye IPA that a couple of you guys are drinking, that is Maryland, My Maryland, the state song, but we named it, for the rye that we use in the rye IPA.
And tell us about the gold can. Why is it gold?
Yeah, so it's obnoxiously gold and obnoxiously Maryland because so Brewers Association, like I was talking about, they throw a beer competition every year. And 2018, I believe, was the year that we put in Maryland Rye Maryland as a brand new beer that we had just created. We entered it and it won first place gold medal for the Maryland beer made with all Maryland ingredients. Which is really cool because that was like the most entries out of any category, and we won gold. So, yeah, so we
awesome.
made the can gold to commemorate our gold medal and put the flag there as much as possible.
Really cool. Well, you can keep talking about your beers. I also want to let everyone know, please, any questions you have, feel free and keep on sipping.
So Jake, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I actually mentor for the Dingman Center of Entrepreneurship. So I'm curious, when you were taking classes in business, which one or two classes did you find the most interesting and the most applicable to what you're doing?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag, honestly. So a lot of the stuff I learned was super useful. I wouldn't say it was the most fun class, but for example, one of my many hats is I do all of our bookkeeping and stuff. So accounting, even though it was just 101, I think I did maybe 201, but elementary accounting was really important for the things that I do now. The same
By
thing
the way,
with,
I was an accounting major. I graduated from University of Maryland, but I didn't tell him to say that.
But yeah, so another one, so one that I felt duped that I had taken this class, but after it was one of the most useful and the most fun. So in the Maryland course guide, it was called it was human capital management, right? And I kind of missed the human part, and I thought it was like a money managing class. And I sit there on the first day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so basically, welcome to HR class."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa, wait a second, this is not what I thought it was going to be." But it was super useful. The professor, I unfortunately forget his name off the top of my head, but he was awesome. He made a very boring, dry topic super interesting. He highlighted how important it really was. And that was one of the things that taking over when I was just a taproom manager, I was like, oh, there are a bunch of things that we need to change to do this the right way. So that was one of the most useful and fun classes. And then obviously, stuff like just management class in general. I took kind of a management track because I like dealing with people. I like that aspect of business. And so obviously that was super helpful. But yeah, it was really funny because when I started taking my business minor, I kind of had the mindset of I might want to have a position at a biotech company where I help more on the business side than just the science. So I was kind of, basically just trying to diversify my skills and my portfolio. But all of those classes turned out really helpful for running a business. Because as I was telling Bridget yesterday, although I pretty much know more than anybody else around here about yeast and how it works, I'm kind of a backup guy, and I help tell them the science behind everything. But brewing is a beautiful mix between science and art, kind of like cooking. You know, you don't have to know the science of what's happening to make really good meals. And brewing is the same way, but it's also really helpful for me to switch hats between, you know, oh, now I'm not HR anymore. Let me figure out what's happening with our yeast and what's going on there. So.
Very cool. And I just wanted to ask you, do you have something I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but do you have something called a barrel room?
No, so that's Attaboy. That's one of our neighbors.
Okay.
They're right next. No, it's okay. They're right next to us. They're actually.
It is like almost connected. Like it is so close.
So Attaboy has their original space on the corner of our building. We're on the opposite corner, and then they just opened the Barrel House, like ironically, pretty close to when we opened Creekside. So it makes sense that you'd confuse it, because it's literally, we could knock down a wall and get in the Barrel House.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions having to do with the beers. I looked on the menu and it's a really nice eclectic menu.
Thank you.
Do you rotate the different styles during the year and switch in some things? And I'm sure there are some base beers that you have all year round.
Right. Yeah.
So you're always looking to come up with something else to add? Exactly.
Yeah. So basically the way our menu is structured is we have about 10 or 12 beers that we just have as core beers. You know, that's one of the problems of having only 8 or 12 taps, which is pretty standard for most breweries. You know, you want to have consistency so that if you really love a beer when you come in and try it, that the next time you come in, it's still there, you know. But at the same time, you want to have fun with it and be able to rotate new stuff and try new stuff out. And so that's kind of another reason how we ended up with 24 taps. So really half of them are pretty much staples that you can guarantee are here, you know, 100% of the time. And then the other half are seasonals or fun stuff like our barrel aged stuff. You know, right now we have a bunch of ciders from the warm weather, and us being across from McCutcheon's, which is a huge apple manufacturing company that's, you know, almost 300 years old. And so we literally just drive the forklift across the street with our giant pulled up and stuff, which is really awesome. But now we're getting into some of our winter and fall releases. So on tomorrow we're releasing our pink peppercorn saison, which is really good. And then we have a lot of barrel aged stuff. We just came out with 1748. That's another history one. So that was when Frederick County was established. And so that's a bourbon barrel aged Belgian strong ale, which is really good because that one's like, you can taste all of the flavors of the bourbon without the mean burn at the end, which is really cool. But yeah, so really we just try to do a little bit of both because we want our core beers to be here all the time, that you can guarantee no matter when you visit Smoketown, that Patsy or that Potomac or that German Crossing is going to be there for you to enjoy. But then we want to incentivize people to come back even 2 weeks later. There's new stuff all the time.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm looking forward to eventually getting down there after this whole shutdown passes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Hey, Jake, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have any lessons learned from, starting the business from scratch and kind of maybe some pitfalls you came across, or, what worked, what didn't, that type of thing? Just maybe some big ones that to come to mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm in a pretty interesting position because I was oblivious in college when we first started the Brunswick location one. So, like I said, I started as a bartender, but then I became kind of head of paperwork and all of the bureaucratic stuff when it came to opening Creekside. So I pretty much did that single-handedly, and I would say that the biggest takeaway that I learned from starting a business from scratch is to figure out everything you need from each department and sector, especially when you're dealing with alcohol. We had to get 6 different approvals from every level of government. And unfortunately, the way that it's set up, there's not really a lot of resources to say, hey, this is what you're going to need from this person, and this is how long it's going to take for them to to get an answer. So, for instance, we have to get a brewing permit from the TTB, which is the federal level, that's the feds. And then you have to get the same permit from the state, and then the county, and then the locality, the city, or smaller government. So really, that was the worst part, was figuring out, okay, well, I need this very, very basic thing to do everything else. But, at the point that we are opening our second location, was actually when the federal government was shut down. And the TTB was actually one of those departments that was shut down. So the TTB is in charge of all of the permitting, all of the label approval, basically anything to do with alcohol, tobacco in the country, including imports. So them being shut down for 8 weeks created quite the backup. So, unfortunately, we had submitted just probably 2 weeks before it got shut down. And it takes, a month or two anyways under normal circumstances. So that was something that was a huge hurdle. But my dad taught me something very useful, which is, if things aren't going your way, especially when it comes to agencies and getting permits and stuff, talk to your elected officials. We actually, we emailed.
Well, hello, especially if they started Total Wine.
Yes, I was just going to say that. We were very uniquely positioned because we reached out to Congressman Trone and said, hey, we're actually served in Total Wine in your stores. Our beer is on your shelf. We're trying to open up a second place. We'd love your help. And we went from waiting for 4 months, and then I want to say like 3 days after we sent that email, we got approval. So
wait, back me up a sec. So one of the Maryland congressmen started.
Yes, he owns Total Wine.
Total Wine. Is Total Wine just in Maryland, or is it in?
No, they're massive now.
Yeah, they're all over.
Yeah.
Damn, that is a great.
Frederick.
Yeah, it started in.
He represents Frederick and all of Western Maryland.
Yeah,
District
that's where he got all his money to
don't we
run
have
for office.
Yep.
Why don't we have a Total Wine in Frederick? It's too
know.
far to drive to Baltimore and
it's mostly Montgomery County now and Virginia. It's huge in Virginia. That's actually one of the first chains that we were in when we were distributed in Virginia, was Total Wine.
All right. Well, I want you to send in another request to Trone about opening a Total Wine closer.
Yeah, can you open in Frederick? We want to be served there. Yeah. So honestly, the biggest takeaway that I took from all that craziness, and from learning from my dad, was that there's always something to do, even when you feel super helpless, even when you feel like nobody. I spent probably, I'm not even exaggerating, over 100 hours on hold with the TTB, just trying to get answers. And that's the tricky thing, is like, you're missing one line item that you're kind of confused about. And you don't want to submit something erroneously, so you want to get some clarification. And it's every single brewery, distillery, winery, tobacco producer in the country trying to talk to these people. So, you are one of many. So sometimes it's really, really frustrating, and it seems like you're very lost and hopeless, but there's always something to do. That was the best thing that I learned from that, is there's always an avenue to figure something out.
Oh, tobacco, trade tax. It's Treasury. Okay.
Do you know how many breweries there are in Frederick?
I want to say, so in Frederick County, I think there are 14, I want to say.
Wow.
That's actually more than I thought.
Yeah, including breweries and plant. Well, so we have like 3 or 4 farm breweries just in Frederick County, that you don't really think of as Frederick City breweries. We're on the outskirts.
Dirt Farm.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's Virginia technically, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, not Dirt Farm. What's the Linganore one called?
Yeah.
Red Shedman.
Yes, Red Shedman. And then there's also like Milk House. That's also Mount Airy
Oh
area.
yeah,
They're
Milk House is also connected to Maryland somehow.
Yeah, they're in Maryland. They're like right by the Frederick County.
Sorry, connected to University of Maryland.
Cool.
Like I can't remember if they're the owners and actual alumni or if just the brewmaster, but them. And I know the brewmaster for Brewers Alley, who is also the brewmaster for
Tom from Monocacy. Yeah.
Yes, he graduated from Maryland.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so we're hoping, just as to let everyone else know, I'm hoping to do more of these events with other breweries that are Terp owned or Terp connected. And so
I have one for you.
Oh,
Jake, are you familiar with Black Flag? I live in Columbia.
Yeah.
So we have Black Flag and Hysteria that are within walking distance, not as close as yours, but you can walk.
I work in Columbia, Ken, and I go to Black Flag and Hysteria all the time.
There you go. I'm not far away from there. I mean, I am just on the other side of, if you take Broken Land Parkway to the end.
Okay.
That's sort of where I am.
And they're always doing Maryland events. I've noticed that. They've done a couple Maryland events, which is really cool.
Yeah, Black Flag had one. I took my son to like his 21st birthday. He doesn't like beer. He likes the fruity stuff. He's a grad also. So and Ken Ullman was there talking about the whole, we know Ken.
Very cool.
A friend of ours, but they did it. It was like development of everything on College Park. He was talking about what they were going to do, everything with Route 1. And then I was at Hysteria for a Howard County alumni event a couple years ago. I took a lift over, even though I said, I don't want to have to worry about that. I was going to take a lift back and someone give me a ride back. I mean, it was walkable from my house.
Love it. That's awesome. We actually had Ken, I don't know if anyone else from Frederick who's on the call went to this event, but one of Frederick Terp's first event, because Frederick Terp's is a newer alumni group. We were around a while ago and then kind of went away and now we're back. Anyways, our first event was Ken coming to talk at one of the Frederick restaurants at Hooch and Banner. Same talk about the Route 1 development, which was really interesting and a great way to kind of start off our board again. So that's really
his
cool.
daughter's at Maryland. I think she's in her sophomore year now.
Very nice.
Jake, I got another question for you. I have actually, I've seen the beer bus parked somewhere nearby. Is that a separate private entity, or did the beer owners come together and do that?
Yeah, no, that was somebody else's genius idea. So that's a separate entity where you pay $20 kind of thing, and you got a DD all day. And they have I want to say 6 or 7 stops in Frederick. This stop is a cheating stop because you get 4 breweries in one stop. But really, if you drive to 4 different points in Frederick, you can probably hit every Frederick City brewery. And so it's kind of the idea behind that. So I know that they've definitely slowed some of their operations down because they're only allowed to have half capacity. But they're very much big in beer tourism around here because they help bring busloads of people in at a time. So we always enjoy them. Hopefully we're not the last stop because you can tell when people have been to 10 different breweries. But
Jake, what are some of your favorite beers besides your own?
I drink a little bit of everything. I really enjoy Trogs is one of my favorite brands outside of Smoketown. I love their first cut, which is their mango IPA. Yeah, that one's really good. I'm also in terms of Maryland breweries, I really like Jailbreak.
That's another Columbia. That's another Columbia brewery.
Yeah. And they're actually
Jailbreak's in Laurel.
Oh, Laurel, sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
in Laurel off of Route 1, across from what used to be the old harness track.
Yep.
I attended an event there. God,
they have great food also.
They had a food truck at the time.
I think they
have a kitchen now.
They have a kitchen now? Yeah, okay. They have a kitchen now.
Yeah, they gave a really nice tour at the Jailbreak,
Yeah.
And he explained, because you're talking about TTB, one of the guys talked about they have the beer
banana.
with bananas in it.
Yeah.
Right. And they got crap because there wasn't bananas in it. So they have to put a banana
Yes.
in their vat.
Yeah. So
there has to be an actual banana so they could call it like monkey something. I forgot what it was called.
So you read my mind, actually. So I was gonna say Jailbreak makes one of the most traditional Hefeweizens around that, you know, I would say is comparable to ours. It's delicious. But yeah, so they call it I forget what it's called too, but basically because there's a picture of a monkey.
Right.
Hefeweizens don't actually have any banana or clove. But one of the byproducts of the Hefeweizen yeast creates phenols that your tongue can only taste and recognize, because the only time you've ever had it is in a banana or in clove. So that's what you taste, even though there's no actual added banana or clove. So their beer has a picture of a monkey and a banana, and
there
the
you
TTB.
Go. It's called Feed the Monkey.
Feed the monkey. Yeah. So the TTB is pretty strict about their guidelines. So they said, right, if there's a picture of this on there, then it needs to be in there, so it's misleading. So what they do is they throw one single banana into every.
Yeah. It has a monkey like peeling of the banana, but the banana is actually a glass of beer. That's what
That's a great logo.
Yeah, I just went on the website because I've had it before.
What are some of your other favorite beers?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot. I love my new favorite style is the super hazy IPAs. I really like that. So exactly like my best girl. That's actually why I recommended that.
Yeah, I really like this style also.
Yeah, so I'm one of the crazy people that runs a brewery but isn't a huge fan of hoppy IPAs. So people are always surprised when I say that, but I really enjoy the aromas and the flavors that you get in hops. But I'm not a fan of bitterness for bitterness sake. You know, some people really love that, but so that's why I really love hazy IPAs as kind of a mix, because you get all the flavors. So it's dry hopped. I don't know how familiar everyone is with the brewing process, but dry hopping is when you add hops to the fermenter, which is the very last step. At 70 degrees, that's when where all the yeast is. And because you add it so late in the brew, it actually is all in the aroma of the beer and not the flavor. So most of the time you add hops, it's in the boil kettle, which is boiling hot wort. And adding that to the boil will actually break down a lot of the alpha acids, which makes beer hoppy, bitter to the tongue. So with hazy IPAs, they add that late in the game, which adds like all the flavors, all the smells without the bitterness, which is that's like my go-to style. Honestly, I really haven't found a bad hazy IPA around, especially Maryland breweries. We all do it pretty well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any other questions, but I was thinking maybe I'll give a quick tour of the brew house if
Yeah, it's awesome. We'd love that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I was on mute. I said, show the place, please do.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry for the vertigo that you're gonna get from me. Yeah, so going back in the back room. Oh, actually, so the canning line is still set up, so I'll show you guys a little bit of that too. So so this is our setup here at Creekside. So right here, that is our mash tun. You can't really see, it's hidden back there, but so that's the very first step in the brewing process. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So basically what you do is you add all of the grain and malt to the kettle right there. And when you pour 180 degree water on top of it, it's not quite boiling, but it's pretty hot. What it does is it actually activates enzymes that are on the grain that turn starches into sugars. So it's the same enzymes that are actually in your saliva. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but if you put bread on your tongue and let it sit there, for like more than 30 seconds, those enzymes start turning that bread starch into sugar. So it actually will taste like you have a mouthful of table sugar. So it's the same enzymes. And when you start that process, when you're done with it, it's called wort. So that is basically just really sugary water, but it's got all of the flavors of the grain and malt hidden behind there. So after that wort is finished in the mash tun, we add it to the brew kettle right here. So the boil kettle brings that wort up to boiling temperature. That is what sterilizes beer. Back in the dark ages, they had no idea why people would die from drinking normal water, and they were surviving from drinking wine, beer, and liquor. And it was because they didn't realize boiling killed all the the microbes that are in there. But so that is where the wort reaches boiling. That's also, like I said, where you add a lot of the hops, especially for the hoppier beers, the traditional IPAs. And boiling those hops, like I said, is what breaks down some of the acids in the hops and creates the flavor profile. And then from there, it goes through, there it is, the plate chiller right here. So that plate chiller brings the wort from boiling temperature down to 70 degrees, which is where you want it when you add it to here, which is the fermenter. So the fermenter is where the magic really happens. So it's about an 8-hour day from the mash tun, which is the first step, to the fermenter there. And from there, once it's at that sweet spot of 70 to 80 degrees, which is where yeast is most happy, that's where you pitch the yeast. And when yeast is closed up, so this is there's no oxygen in the fermenter here. When you have sugar, yeast, and no oxygen, the byproducts are CO2 and ethyl alcohol. So when we don't get enough oxygen while we are doing exercise, one of our byproducts is lactic acid, makes our muscles. For yeast, it would be pretty cool if we could jump on a treadmill and get drunk. But yeast strain that we use, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's about 3 weeks.
Hey Jake, from our end, I don't know about anyone else, but you're
beautiful beer that we get.
breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
He is.
Okay. I don't know where I cut out. Sorry.
No,
I
it's
walked away
okay.
from the internet. So that working
We
now?
figured.
Is it good?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now.
It's
Yeah.
better.
Okay, cool. So I don't know where I cut out, but basically during fermentation, because the yeast has a bunch of sugar and no oxygen available, it creates ethyl alcohol. Between 1 week to 3 weeks is when how long it takes to ferment a beer from start to finish. And then I won't walk too far away because I don't want to break out again, but this is our canning line as well. So we have a depalletizer that takes cans off. There's a spin rinse. I don't want to walk too far away, but there's a spin rinse that sanitizes the cans down here. That's where it gets canned and then offloaded there, and that's where we package it after. So that's set up for our canning day tomorrow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you guys, you were telling me how you were one of the first canners of in general.
Yeah, we were. So that was again part of our marketing strategy. So being in Brunswick, being pretty far away from the other breweries that had the benefit of being in Frederick and pretty close to the population and having each other, we wanted a way to convince people to come out to Brunswick and try our beer. So I thought no better way than to get our beer into cans, get those cans into liquor stores nearby people. So we obviously started with Frederick County and tried to distribute there. And so, yeah, pretty unusual, but we started canning like 2 years, I want to say, after we opened. just to try it out and see if the demand was there. And we were really lucky because that is what positioned us to be where we are, especially now selling so many beers in to-go package form, especially during the pandemic, has really been beneficial for us.
You ever
Yeah,
have to dump a batch?
What's that?
Do you ever have to dump a batch?
Yes, it's happened only a few times. Normally, you know, it's kind of nice because normally you come up with a beer like that's not right. It's still good, you know. It's not our what we planned it to be. You know, we can't pretend it's that. But you know, most of the time it's still good beer. A couple times you have pretty big mess ups and you have to dump more than you like. But we've been pretty lucky. Our brewer Greg is one of the best, and you know he's usually spot on.
awesome. Thank you so much for the tour and everything. We only have a couple minutes left, so if anyone has a final question, go for it. Otherwise, I think we may sign off, but this was such a great inaugural beer and business talk, and I'm so excited to do more and show people this one. And I hope that we can do more with all the Maryland alumni. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, thanks, Jake. I think from everyone, this is great, and great job showing us. I think everyone hopefully is following Smoketown on social media and knows about your beers now. And I know, you know, we'll keep supporting you guys, but I hope we bring you some new business too.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. And if anybody finds themselves in Frederick or lives in Frederick, you know, I'm here most of the time, Monday through Friday. So please stop and say hi. I love to say hi and meet people. So.
Love it. All right, guys, I'm going to finish the recording and end the meeting, but thank you everyone for calling in. This is great. I know, you know, it's a challenge to connect with people during these crazy times, but I'm really happy we could have this fun virtual happy hour with Smoketown.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Bridget.
Jake.
Yep.